What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Game Cast. I am one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Hello, everybody.
And we have a special guest today, my brother, Brandon Seward. What's up, Brandon?
You're
You know what I'm saying? Um,
You're
for people that don't know, I'm gonna shout him out real quick. He actually did the bop that happens at the beginning of our episodes, as well as the diddly that happens at the end of our episodes. So if you need someone to do, musical stuff for you, uh, there you go. And you have to pay him though. This is we didn't get it for free.
yeah.
We definitely paid. You're not gonna get my price because I'm me. But you definitely you definitely need to what I'm saying. But no, he makes great stuff. He also did the music for when I go stream, like when I like have like the just chatting or whatever, the music that plays in the background. Did all that as well. So definitely super talented. Definitely hit him up if you're looking for whatever. He's not on
appreciate.
Twitter because he's random, but he is on TikTok, I believe. Not TikTok. You're on
No,
Instagram.
nah. I mean, not really.
Mm.
You can find him on them internets
You can
somewhere.
find me on the internet somewhere.
Somewhere on the
You
internet.
Just hit me up and I'll get your contact info. There you go. There you go. But yeah, today is episode 97, and we have a dope show for you today. We're gonna be talking about Trigun, and we're also gonna be talking about Alice in Borderland. I know we talked about it a little bit on the previous episode, but I hadn't seen it. But now that I've watched both season
hmm
1 and 2, we can actually have a spoiler cast. So this is your warning, everyone. Spoiler cast. We are talking about everything. Okay,
if you got problem, now's your time to exit.
Yeah.
right. Come back, or at the very least, exit once we get to the Borderland, segment of the show. You can stay for now, but and it will have all that, the fancy schmancy timestamps and all that for you, so you'll be good. But beyond that, though, what we want to talk about is, well, at least I want to talk about is Velma. The first 2 episodes dropped on HBO, and it is a basically an adult, animation surrounding the Scooby Doo gang, which is really cool. That like just the sound of that is really dope. They've
hmm
done things like that in the past with Toonami, where it was always skits. It was never like a full show where they would have like they were like combining Scooby Doo with the Blair Witch or whatever. And it was during Halloween they would have like stuff like that, and it was really cool. But this is an ongoing show where people actually die. There is no, I mean, I guess there's a person in a mask, but it's not real ghosts and stuff, but people do die. There are consequences, and it's supposed to be funny though. I was going in
Mm.
thinking it was going to be serious. The first 3 minutes, the first 3 minutes were great because Velma was like hearing Velma call someone a basic bitch was like everything. Just it was
Well,
just it was everything in that moment, and I was like, this might be the show. This might be it. And then it goes downhill.
so,
Goes downhill from there.
quick question. Are we saying this is supposed to be funny, like the Mike Tyson, Scooby Doo, like
No, no, no,
thing,
not like
or
that. Not like the
okay, okay,
classic. Yeah, not like the Johnny Bravo, collaboration. Nothing like that. This is supposed to
hmm
be along the lines of, adult WB, not WB, Warner Brothers. Uh, what's the what's the show with Poison Ivy? The Harley Quinn show. Similar to
hmm
that,
oh, okay,
but
okay,
it comes off as, I don't think it does this thing. You know how like in Scream they talk about horror films and as if they're not in a horror film? It
yeah.
does that, but in a really weird way. And it's not very funny. A lot of the jokes are signaled way before they happen. Like or rather they're telling you the joke. Like, hey,
mm
this is something that's happening because this happens in the world. Like one of the Daphne is like, if in teen movies, the heroine or whatever can survive, a killer or whatever, so can I. And it's like that's supposed to be the gag. Like it's supposed to be like a scream moment. The thing is though, all of the all this is signaling things for you. There's no moment where you're just like, oh, I see what you did there. There's a couple things in the background, the scenery that's kind of funny, but for the most part, a lot of the jokes are just people telling you a joke. Like this is, I'm telling you that I'm signaling that this is the joke, people. This is where you're supposed to laugh. Like if there was a laugh track, I wouldn't be surprised. You know what I mean? And it comes off as really weird. There's a scene where they find someone had died, and Velma is the main suspect, and she's going around and trying to investigate, why and what happened and all this good stuff. Basically, doing her Mystery Inc. stuff. But this is before Mystery Inc. is a thing, and so she's by herself. And as she's going along, picking up the clues and whatnot, she is stumbling into Shaggy, or running into Daphne, and they don't really. Well, Shaggy likes her, but Daphne and her are beefing for whatever reason, right? And so
Mm.
when they have these interchanges, they're like, hey, Velma's very judgy, and she'll like tell them about themselves. And in one instance, she's wrong. And she's like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't jump to conclusions and judge people horribly, right away and all this other stuff. And they like pause to kind of like, haha. And then they go back to talking. And I'm like, what was that? Like,
It wasn't funny.
what are we doing? Like, what, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, there's just this weird, and then some of the jokes are very, you could tell that they're dated. They were written a while ago before coming,
Mm.
or whatever. And I don't know. I don't know. The thing is though, with saying all that, I'm actually going to continue to watch it. The overall mystery I think is interesting. And Velma has this thing where, because she blames herself for something that happened a long time ago, every time she goes to solve to get a clue or investigate something, she has hallucinations. And if the hallucinations get bad enough, she could actually die. Like, she has a heart attack at one point. And from there, it's just straight horror. Like, when this happens, it's like, zombies, or it's like some type of evil witch or whatever. And I guess that's, the callback to the classic Scooby Doo. But they can actually harm her. And that part is actually really cool.
Mhm.
But beyond that, it's like, this is not really funny. Fred, he's hilarious. He is he is great. He is hilarious at being aloof and just not knowing. He was like, I have a disease where I can't remember people who are not rich or who are not gorgeous. Like, I see you.
That
He's like, I
sounds like
see you.
something Fred would do, yeah.
Right, like, I see you,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna remember who you are because you're just not beautiful. So if we could just move this along, and it's great, but everything else about the show is just not. And I'm saddened because on paper it sounds like this could be really freaking cool, like a Scooby Doo show that is real and comical or not. That would be interesting. At least I think. And it's also weird that Scooby's not there. I know this is about Velma, but the fact that the dog isn't there is also kind of weird.
Maybe he comes later.
Potentially. And everybody who felt the way about Shaggy's new design because he doesn't look like a stoner or whatever, it actually works for this. And if you watch it, you'll see he is still Shaggy. But he makes a joke about not being on drugs and not being, hungry all the time. Like, some of those jokes work, but it's like a huge flag every time they do it. Like, for instance, this is not a spoiler. It's great. Daphne is selling drugs at one point, and she's like, Velma's like, well, what do you got? And Daphne's like, well, I got jinkies. I got some mystery machines. I got some. It's like she's naming things that they say in the old show.
Mhm.
And it's like, that would have been great. Like, I see what you did.
Mhm.
And obviously, this is for older people who watch Scooby, but this just doesn't really, it's more cringe than funny. And that's
Um,
unfortunate. That's really, really unfortunate. But yeah, that's my 2 episode brief review of Velma. Hopefully,
mhm.
episode 3 and 4 are better whenever they come out. But yeah, I'm just not. I'm gonna watch it just because of the mystery,
Mhm.
and I love Scooby, like all things Scooby Doo. But it's not something I would recommend. I think you would, especially if you're a fan of it. I think your face would tighten up a lot while
Mm.
watching it.
Mhm.
So whatever. But beyond that, what have you guys been doing this week? Have you done anything cool? Have you seen anything cool? Played cool video games? What have you guys been doing?
You go ahead, Tess.
Um, I've I've discovered Marvel Snap.
I
Oh,
saw.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
go.
honestly the only thing that's I mean, there's lots of things going on in my life, but the only thing that anybody really needs to know, because everything else will just make you cry, is that I have been playing Marvel Snap. That's it.
So how are
That's
you
it.
liking it?
I like it a lot. It is a lot of fun. I mean, sometimes I really don't know what I'm doing, but um also, it seems like the other people I'm playing don't know what they're doing. There are several matches I've won that I really shouldn't have.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, and sometimes I want to say, oh, I guess I was just playing against, a 7-year-old. That's not true. 7-year-olds would probably kick my ass. And and so I mean, you could just say maybe you're playing against somebody who's not good with math, but that's like a 42-year-old. Like,
Right.
come on, we suck at math. So, um, yeah, I sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is great. It's just, it's the board you get, but I am having fun with the cards and trying to figure stuff out, I'm trying to create new decks, and as you get more cards, and build decks where the cards actually work well with each other, because like in the very beginning, I don't know how long you guys have been playing, if you're playing, but the very beginning, everybody gets the same cards, or I don't know,
Right.
maybe we don't get the same cards, but you get a certain amount of cards, and it's like, okay, well, I can only play with it's like,
Right. You don't
okay,
have
you
a
got
lot.
Tony Stark, the Hulk, and some other cards, and whatever the rock guy is, like from Fantastic Four,
Oh, thing.
and then a
Yeah.
whole bunch
Oh,
of like,
dang.
yeah, thing, and then a whole bunch of like, one cards, like the just like stop, what's her name, the girl with the afro. Like, you get those in the beginning, and it's just like, okay, but I was winning a bunch of matches with just those cards. And I was like,
Right.
okay, this is cool. But then I started getting all these other cards, and I was like, oh, hmm, maybe I should move these in. These seem good. Dude, it took me forever to understand what ongoing card meant.
Don't feel
Like,
bad. Don't feel bad.
I
I
I was like, I don't know what this means. I picked this card because it seems to be really powerful, and it says that it works on all ongoing cards. And then I'm sitting here like, wait, I don't even know what an ongoing card is. So then I had to filter to actually find out what the ongoing cards were after I lost that battle. And I was like, oh, these are what ongoing cards are. It doesn't even matter if you understand what it means. Just know that these are ongoing. If
right.
you know that they're ongoing, then you can, use the other one card, and then, throw a Tony Stark in there, and boom, yeah, you can win. But if you don't know which cards are ongoing and you don't put them into your deck, you're gonna, it's a waste. And so I was like, oh, wait a minute, I need an ongoing deck and an on reveal deck. Oh, damn. So so, I've been sitting around racking my brain trying to make decks, and it started reminding me of, the game that nobody plays, which is my, Dynasty Warriors games that I
Right.
love to
Right.
play, Warriors Orochi, and how you spend the majority of your time like building your weapons for your character,
Right.
like attaching attributes, because like you fight through all the levels, whatever, you get all these attributes to make your weapon really awesome, but it might take hours on end to make sure that you put the right attributes into a weapon, or upgrading weapons and all that kind of stuff, just so that you can burn through a level, a really really hard level.
Right.
And so I realized, yeah, that's kind of where you will end up spending a lot of time, is creating these decks of cards to have the best amount of, you know, complementary attributes, so that you don't get completely annihilated by a person who has all of these cards that always add points.
Right.
Like, I got massacred by somebody, I think today or yesterday, that literally had a card that just every time they threw a card down, every card they had just added points. I was like, "What is happening here?" Then I realized I had created a deck for the promotion that's going on right now. What is that? The thing where you destroy cards.
Oh. Oh.
So
Okay.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, the thing that's happening right now is the destroy card layer or whatever, and like you throw a card down, but then it gives you energy.
Right.
And so I made a deck that works really well with that, like using Wolverine, using Colossus, using armor. And then since Colossus and armor are ongoing, I decided to throw in what's her I can't remember her name. But,
Um.
and Tony, because you can utilize those to multiply everything closer to
Right.
the end if you play it right. And and so that's what I'm thinking because I know that this is beneficial. It's been helping me win. But no, this person just straight up annihilated me by just literally every time I threw down a card, it was like 5 more points, 3 more points, 4 more points. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a damn minute.
I done
I
spent
was
too
like,
long on this deck for you to just be
just
adding points.
come on. I was so mad. And then when I thought, I was like, you know what? Okay, so I'm just going to throw out this card. I'm going to throw out the end and I hope that it adds. And it did. It did what it was supposed to do. It gave me my adds. It added like 2 points to each. And then this person just threw out a freaking Odin. And Odin, because
Yeah,
he adds all the on reveal stuff, like doubles the on reveal stuff, everything that was on reveal
it
literally
activated
just
again.
multiplied. I was like, so, this is not okay. I don't remember if I took a screenshot of that because I was going to throw it on Twitter. I mean, I've done really well. There were 2 times when I literally just killed the other person. And my problem with this game is that I don't believe in myself enough, so I don't snap.
Yeah, no one does at the
And
beginning. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just sitting here like, like winning. And I was like, oh, snap. Like, I should be snapping. That's what I posted to Twitter today. Should be, and I'm like I did that one level where the one little thing where it's like, oh, put cards here and and it will duplicate, it will fill the whole thing with your card. So
Right.
of course you want to wait until you can throw Hulk in there. And then I did really well on the other ones, but the person I guess in front of me, I can't remember exactly what card they played, but it wasn't a 12. I think I can't remember exactly what card it was, but they thought that they were doing really well. I think they snapped. And I ended up beating them in all 3 things. And I was like, why would you do that though? And I'm asking myself, I was like, why did you snap? If you did you really think that that was like 9 doesn't equal 12? Like I literally just anyway. And so and so like I've done really well on that. Or when you win the one that says add 100 points if you have all the cards here, if you have the most
Right.
cards here. And so I've done that, and I've like literally like really really done well on some levels. I'm sitting here like, yeah, or I'm just like, oh, you didn't think that I had this card. You didn't know that I had this card, so I really just did this. And that's great. But I'm sorry. I thought that I was doing something by being smart and like making my little deck with Colossus and Wolverine and armor and Sinister, because you can dump Sinister in there and then he duplicates himself, and that's like
Yep.
really smart to do. But these people who are just racking up points by continuing to use, Rocket and Star Lord and whatever
Yep.
that dinosaur monster is, and then
Oh,
multiplying it at the end with
oh,
Odin.
the
I'm like,
memories.
no. So yeah,
Yeah. Well,
snap. I've
the
been
thing is,
snapping.
and it's not to make you feel bad, but early on, the first few matches you play will be against like bots that kind of
Yeah,
like make you feel good. However,
yeah,
yeah, there are a lot of people who will snap immediately
yeah,
and don't even look at their hand. They'll just snap. And I started doing
yeah.
that because I've gotten so used to what it was. And like, don't feel bad about the ongoing and on reveal and everything, because
Mhm.
when I was playing, even when I got pretty decent at it, I started to forget certain things. Like, 'cause I would have, you go through so many cards. I would have a card that was actually on reveal and not ongoing, but the ability kept going. So I'm thinking, oh,
Mhm.
it's an ongoing thing, but it's not. It's just a one time thing that just plays out into the end of the match. And so I'm like,
Right.
oh, this is an ongoing thing. So then I use Spectre, the card you were
Yeah,
talking about,
Spectre.
and she multiplied, but it was like, oh, that's not actually ongoing. So I had to
Yeah.
like constantly for a while, like, okay, this is ongoing, this is not, this is that, or whatever. And I was able to make a deck that there's no real synergy in my deck. It's
Mhm.
what it does is it combats what you have. So
Yeah.
I'll play against someone who would use like multiple man, and
Yeah.
they would, because if he multiplies and he could be bouncing all over the place, right? And so I would get Agent 13, and maybe she'll spawn like Professor X. Professor X, he will lock down a space.
I
And
hate him right now.
right? He will lock down a space and no one can add a card there, but they can't remove a card either. So multiple man is stuck. Also, when people play Nova, because like if you destroy Nova, he
Yeah.
boosts all the other
Adds
cards
it.
that are
Yep.
there. I just play an armor right after. And so like they'll have Nova and like what is his name? Bucky or whatever. They'll have them there. I'm like, oh, it's my go. Okay. And I'll
Mhm.
play it and like I've had so many people quit off of one move because I played armor. like
Mm.
destroying their plans. I'm like, you gotta have a plan B, dog. You got, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? You
you
just
do.
come
You
come in
do.
here with one plan, and you also another thing you want to look at is who flips first, because I
Yeah.
didn't know that was a thing at one point. Whichever little logo or whatever glows is the person who's gonna flip first, and that
Mhm.
will totally shift the playing field so much. But I'm glad you like it. I'm a big fan, being a Marvel head, and so I'm
Yeah.
glad, what I'm
It's a
saying,
lot
that
of fun.
is definitely good. What about you, Brandon? What have you been up to?
Yeah.
Well, all righty then. So nah, I just went back and cracked out on Vampire Survivors a little bit more before I buy the DLC. Um,
Oh, nice.
trying to finish all the achievements. I'm at 81%,
Oh,
and
nice.
so I'm at 130 out of like 159, 160. So
Is that how many
yeah,
achievements it has?
yeah.
Oh gosh.
And
Okay.
then once I do that, I'll probably get the DLC. It's like $2, but I wanted to finish at least the first part, right? And before
Yeah.
I just got the DLC. Um, you know what I'm saying, man? Just been taking care of business and everything. Ain't been doing too much, you know what I'm saying? Staying low, staying to the side, you know what I'm saying? Under the couch.
That's
You
what's
know,
up. So
you
you,
know
so because I just started playing the Vampire Survivor. So like, I understand. I didn't understand its appeal at first because I didn't realize you didn't activate the abilities. I'm over here trying to press buttons. Like, how do I make the cross come out again?
yeah.
I'm
Blaze said that too.
right.
Blaze said, I thought I was swinging the whip.
Right. I'm like, is it that is it on a cooldown? Like I thought it was cooldowns, and I was like, no one is telling me how to play. There's no tutorial, and I'm like, oh wait, I just have to move. That's all I'm doing is moving, and then it clicked, and I was like, oh, I can see how this kind of be, how it can keep you like keep playing or whatever, because it's like a roguelike in a way, but you
yeah,
still are progressing or whatever. So I
yeah.
could definitely it because everyone was talking about, especially around the award time, about how
Oh,
fun this game was, and I was like, I just don't see the appeal until I actually played it. Which, duh, but still,
it 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 came out the blue.
it did.
Uh it definitely it was the game that did everything right. Um it sparked a bunch of clones. And that's how you know you did it right. Like when people be like, hey, 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 whoa, 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 go make that. But don't make that. Make it a little bit worse. Like,
Don't copy off my paper, or don't make it obvious. Copy off my
yeah,
paper.
like you could copy answers 1 and 2, get 3 wrong, copy 4, get 6 through 9 wrong, and then whatever you do is up to you. Like, all right, boom.
Okay, that's just horrible. I don't know. You should just not. You should just do it yourself at that point. But yeah, it's that. Yeah, because that happened with Fall Guys and a bunch of others that the
Yeah.
clones came out. But yeah, that's
Uh,
cool.
um, nah. So one of the things that like draws you into it, right, is the more you play it, the I won't say the deeper. Like the game is not deep. It's just there's more than you think in that game. Like you compare it to like Dead Cells or Risk of Rain and stuff like that. The weapons, for example, don't have evolutions. Um, there's hidden things on the map, but it's nowhere near as much. Like Dead Cells has replayability, for example, because like you can consistently add new things to your arsenal. You could try new builds. You can do that.
Right.
Um, this game, I won't say it forces replayability because you're done when you're done, right? Like
Mm.
you can walk away whenever you try to. You could try to walk away. It's gonna like suck you back in if you like it. But like, so you will play, you be like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. I made it to fifth minute 15. And then you're like, all right, I'm gonna try to do it. I'm gonna try to do it. And then finally, 4 or 5 runs later, you finally find a couple of items and stuff, and you get to minute 30. So boom, you finish the first level with one character. And then another level pops up.
Right.
But it's not just an aesthetic change, it changes the layout of like the tiles. So instead of it being like a full 360 map, on this map there's now more obstacles. It's still a full 360 map, but then you finally beat that map, and then the next map is just a hallway. And you're like, all right, so I'm going left and right, huh? I'm going. That's what. And so then you would think that it doesn't add much of a challenge, but it does because it forces you to use different items. Like you might have had an item that allowed you to just run up and down and wipe everything out in a line, and you could just keep moving up and down. Your horizontal game was terrible, but you could
Right.
move vertically. But now you go to this hallway and you're like, hmm.
I need to rethink things.
I ain't got that much space, dog. Like y'all done box me in. And so and then you start like getting other characters and you realize that each character has a different attribute. So you go from like a guy who starts off with a whip to a freaking tree.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't
you
understand the tree.
so there was, when the game first came out, whatever, a bunch of Twitch streamers and YouTubers were making challenges like, hashtag ice bucket challenge, whatever other insert challenge name here. And it was called like the don't move challenge. And um, people were coming up with builds to where they can beat a map, which is essentially just surviving to the 30-minute mark and you've beaten the map.
Right.
Uh and so they would literally try to come up with a build to where they can just stand in one spot for 30 minutes, not move. And that was the challenge. And so the tree is actually the developers in response to this challenge came up with the tree.
Oh.
The, so yeah, that was cool. Um and then you start finding out that there's like secrets on secrets. Like some of the characters, it'll say survive for 15 minutes with this character, you unlock something, or fully evolve this weapon, you unlock a character who now has a different weapon, and then you have to play that character to get another weapon. But then there's um secrets within the secrets. It'll be like when you finally unlock this map, or you finally unlock this weapon or this item or whatever, it will reveal things on previous maps. So now you need to go back to the other maps. And it sounds bad like it's backtracking, but the whole time, like you've gotten so many other characters and stuff, it's like a different play experience.
So
And
this is why you're running through all these, and they have so many achievements. Like it's just, it
yeah,
seems to be
exactly.
ongoing. So you definitely seem to get your money's worth. Granted, I've been playing on Game Pass. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But
I mean,
I haven't paid anything. Not that I wouldn't, because it was fun. It's
I think it's
fun.
like $5.
But yeah, exactly. It's not that
Yeah,
expensive.
it's not expensive. So I mean, $5. I mean, if you play the game for like 2 hours, you got $5.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, totally.
uh,
But
um,
I think that because I did make it to the second map, the long hallway, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. This is it's different because I didn't know it was another map. I thought it was just the one map, which is another
yeah,
reason why I was like, why is this blowing up the way it is? But I was like,
right,
oh,
right,
there's new maps. All right, so
yeah.
that's what's up.
And then there's like there's 5 stages, uh, a couple bonus stages, a boss only stage. It just it's just a lot. It's a lot to you can get a lot out of your $5 if you enjoy the game. So
Mm.
Shout
yeah,
out to the end. And this
Hey.
is not this is not free promotion. We like to recommend things, and so that's why we're doing that. But if you want us to sponsor, like you need a sponsor, we need sponsors or
Yeah,
whatever.
just
Just
let us
I,
holler.
know.
You know what I'm
I ain't
saying?
telling
Holler.
you to go play it, but I think you should.
Right.
Like that's subliminal. Let that sit on the back of your palate. You know what I'm saying? You just can't get rid of the taste. Like, dang, maybe I should go play it.
right.
Uh,
But
ha-
that's
hashtag.
we're not endorsing it. But I'm just saying the developers out there, if you need someone to, I'm just saying. Uh, But yeah, let's move on to our first topic. Our first topic is Trigun. The new Trigun show, Trigun Stampede, has hit Hulu and I believe Crunchyroll and I think a couple of other places I think got it as well. But first episode is out, and initially I was saying that this, at least from the trailers that we saw, that this was going to be a little bit closer to the manga. It's going to be a little bit more serious, and I was actually wrong in that because it is not like the manga, at least from the first episode. The first episode, because I actually watched both the original first episode again just recently and this one, so I can compare. And
Mm-hmm.
the original one is almost shot for shot like the manga. They
Mm-hmm.
flipped some characters. There's new characters that they bring in, but as far as like some of the shots, some of the gags are the same. Even some of the writing in terms of like misogynistic stuff and whatnot. All that stuff is in there. Whereas this one, there's no, like, for instance, there's no Millie. Millie's not there. And I don't know if she comes up later, but in this episode, she doesn't show up. It's a new character in her place, someone that's never been in the series before. Trigon, or sorry, not Trigon, Vash is, we actually see him as a younger person. Before in Trigon, you don't know about his, him and being related to Millions Knives and any of that information. You find that out way, way later. In this, they
Mm-hmm.
start off with him. Like, you find out like, oh, he has a brother, and you find out that, well, I don't think they necessarily say is his brother, but they look like twins. So you kind
Very,
of,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you kind
Yeah.
of, you can put two and two together basically. But you find out that
Mm-hmm.
Millions Knives actually was responsible for, killing a lot of people. That's stuff that they kind of held off on in the original show. All of this is up front immediately. And so I'm like, oh, so this is going to be, it's not going to be like the manga, but it's going to be a little bit more serious. We're going to be moving through these more darker elements sooner. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm down with that. But then I started to realize like, oh, they've actually changed a lot, a lot. Like, they don't start in a bar. They don't, the shootout that happens, in the original is gone. Millie's gone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that's changed. That being said, I'm not upset with it.
Mm.
I enjoyed it. The animation is pretty solid, especially for
Yeah.
3D, like, the CGI or whatever. They do a really
Mm-hmm.
good job with that. It's not, animation has been great all around anyways. It's not on the level of like, say, Arcane, but it's unique. It's almost like if someone were to do like, we have 3D animation, and then someone was like, I want to do cell shaded on, like, layered on top of that. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really interesting thing that they're doing, and it doesn't affect the movements at all. Like, Vash is still very fast and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and realistic even. And that's not something that I expected, because we all know like Vash is, when he's trying to get away from being shot, he's like scattering around like a freaking spider. Like, he's all
Mm-hmm.
over the place. You don't really get that. He's more, I don't know, Neo in the Matrix. He gets serious really quick.
Mm.
I still think there's going to be humor. There's going to be humor, there's going to be funny moments and whatnot, but I don't think it's going to be in the same vein as what it was before. And I'm interested in that because we've gotten
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, we've gotten enough of the Goku aloof hero, doesn't know what the hell's going on, or at least pretends like he doesn't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Vash still does that, but it's more like, hey, can we not do this so I don't have to kill you all? Like, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to just being just doesn't know what's going on for the most
Yeah.
part. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Now, granted, I can't say much more in terms of like a series, but it's a very promising start. And in some aspects, it feels longer and shorter than the original. I think the original felt longer because going off of the manga, there's a lot of I guess like like they're introducing characters. So there's
Mm-hmm.
points with Millie and how she's carrying like a, a giant gun under her, I don't know, shaw or whatever, and
Right.
like, and how the bounty hunters are looking for Vash, and how he's potentially supposed to be evil because they think he's the Typhoon, which is his brother. And there's a lot of that type of stuff. Whereas this is kind of like it's moving. It's like, oh, there's a bounty hunter. We need to go get him, or not the bounty hunter. The bounty hunters are looking for him, or the police are looking for him. We got to go, see who this person is. We want to interview him because Millie's crew they're reporters now. They're not with the, I forgot what it was. They were doing insurance claims or something like that before in the
Yeah.
Yeah,
original.
yeah, they were insurance.
Yeah, and this they are journalists, and
Yeah.
so they're looking to interview Vash, but the
Mm.
townspeople see him as a hero. On the flip side, in the other one, they were like, we see him as a menace. They're like, no, we see
Yeah.
him as a hero. He saved the town and all this other stuff. So we're moving through things rather quickly. We're showing instead of telling. At the
Mm.
same time, because we're moving so quick, and we get a lot of information up front. If it's like, oh, this is a decent episode, but at the same time, it moves quickly because there isn't a lot of talking, and it's over. And I'm like, oh, that was it. So it's a
Yeah,
weird vibe. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I think I think this will be shorter overall, like how many episodes and stuff. I think it'll be shorter than the original in a good way. Um, I think because they're skipping a lot of that, I guess comedic. Hey, who are you? This guy? Are you him? And
Mhm.
like when nobody knew who he was, and like they all was like trying to figure out who the typhoon was. Like we're getting by that. Like the military police knew who he was right off bat. The people that were looking for him.
Right.
Uh, Granted, the reporter didn't know who she was looking for, but they figured it out quick. Like, but the almost the whole first episode was them trying to figure out who he was in the original. So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a little bit better in terms of time. I don't think it's gonna be as many episodes. I like the animation quality as well.
Mhm.
Um, I like a lot of the shots that they did, like what do you call that? The cinematography behind it. I don't. Do you use
Mhm.
that word for anime? Do you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the
Okay.
same.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Like the cinematography for it was on point. Like when he was running for the bullet, um, and it cut to a first person view, a couple of
Yeah.
times, like, and then seeing him dodge the bullets in not such a cartoonish way. It was like, back then it was what do you call that? Like the Looney Tunes effect, right?
Mhm.
Like almost like the magic satchel with the mask, like, oh, I'm just dodging because I'm flailing around, you can't hit me. On this one it was like, no, like I
It's
can dodge your
purposeful.
bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect. I can dodge your bullets, and then I can portray, or the animators portrayed that he can dodge bullets in like a cool way, like point blank. I'm a sidestep, then I'm gonna disarm you, and now I'm gonna go back and do what I gotta do. But I
Yeah.
didn't want to do this to begin with. Just remember,
Mhm. Yeah.
like
And
I can knock the gravy out your biscuit real quick. Like don't
Mhm.
try me, home. Like
yeah, they did a really good job with that. And Meryl, that's I kept forgetting her name.
yes,
Meryl, like their designs are really cool. Like it's you can tell who they are, but they've been spruced up a bit to look more like how they did in the I'm sorry, better than how they did in the original,
Uh-huh.
and in a way that also doesn't take away from the original.
yeah,
Also, is interesting is that the voice actors for well, at least one of them has been already the revealed to be the same voice actor as the original. So the person who's
Mhm.
playing Vash, Johnny Young, I can't pronounce his last name, but he voiced the original, and now he's back for this version. And he does a really good job because in my head I was like, "Yo, he sounds like Vash, but not like the original, but enough. Like whoever's doing this is doing a great job of like impersonating, you know what I mean?" And I'm like, oh wait, it's the same person. Like I didn't even realize it was the same person. But yeah, he's doing a great job of making him sound. They modernized it a little bit, I think.
I I definitely like the new design of his arm. I like
Yeah,
um like just seeing the older ones, like the stuff he was able to do, like when he
Mhm.
shot the big beam, it looking at his arm, the beam looks more believable, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So I actually can't wait to see if they do that later on, like where he does the beam. Like that's gonna
Mhm.
be a epic. They need to get the people. No offense to the studio, like none at all. But like when you look at like One Punch Man, right? When they had the super crazy things going on between like Saitama and Genos, how they up the animation.
right.
Uh, they need to do that for that episode. Like they need to go all out when his arm transforms.
Or not even
Yeah.
that, dude. When they, because when the assassins come to try
Yeah,
to kill him and Wolfwood, like having like upping the animation there. But I mean, what we saw, it feels like they did that anyways on the slide because when he dodges the bullets, I feel like everything is very sharp there
yeah.
Mhm.
comparatively. Because like when they show you their faces and stuff, it looks not that it looks bad, but it's a little. it's not as crisp as when he was actually fighting, and
Yeah,
obviously because they want you to see everything, they don't want you to miss what's happening. But when he was moving and dodging and stuff, it was like wow, like I feel like they bumped it up a little bit, like we
yeah,
really want you to see. And then the same thing when they did a close up of his gun when he's trying to get the bullet and
yeah,
he's looking, it's like there's nothing in the bullet or whatever. There's an effect. It's like almost like they're like they have the CG animation and then they layered on top of that maybe a hand drawn or hand painted or whatever, but it looks really really crisp in those scenes. And I could be wrong. It could be like you know I'm assuming or like my it's playing tricks on my eyes because I'm like this is a really cool moment, so maybe it's heightened for myself type stuff. But looking at it, I was like, wow, this just went up
yeah,
like all of a sudden.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I just wish it didn't end. I was like, man, I need another episode. Like y'all
There-
stop playing with me type
There's
They
a
stuff,
should have done a double episode
there's a
release.
term
right?
for that. There's a term for that when they like up the budget for a certain episode. There's an actual term for that, but they need to do it all the time.
Or
Yeah.
potentially expensive, I guess. I know with
Look,
Naruto, they usually, in order to up it, what they did was they actually took away details so they can
yeah,
speed up the
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah.
But it always looked slick, and it was like, okay, this is a big fight scene. And so when they went back to normal, it was like, okay, all the details are back to kind of
Mhm.
work. And I think with this, it might be the opposite. I feel like things get more crisp as things move faster because they don't want you to miss it, being that it's in CGI. You know what I mean? Whereas
Mhm.
Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, it's like we can just do the hint of something, like a wave of line going really fast is, oh, that's his hand hitting him
well,
really quickly. You don't really actually need to see the hand per se. You just need to get the hint that he swung really fast and smack guy or whatever the case may be.
well,
And that's not the case here. I think they want to be more deliberate with you seeing as much of it as possible.
not to get off topic, but when Naruto does it, it's hit or miss. Uh,
It is.
I'm
It
I'm
is.
sorry. Like when he fought Pain, it was a cool fight. Terrible looking. When Naruto, Sasuke, when they're older, when with Baruto and whatever, and they fight Mimoshiki, holy crap! When they put the Susanoo on Kuruma
Yeah, that
and
was
he had
fire.
the sword, it was like it was nasty looking. But and then with like Guy, it was crazy when Guy when he opened all gates. Even Rock Lee versus I think his name is Kimamaru, the Bone guy. When they
That
up
was
the
great.
Oh,
when
that
they
was a great fight.
when they upped the animation for that fight, it was awesome. But then you have certain ones like once again Pain, not so great, and then they have other great fights where they don't do it at all because they don't have to, right? It's like in the story. So like uh Jiraiya fighting
Jiraiya.
Pain. I'm gonna just call him J Man because like his name is hard. I can
Theresa
I, I
Jiraiya.
Jiraiya. Purve Sensei,
Yeah.
him fighting Pain. They didn't up the animation. It was still awesome.
Well, because
So
I think it's a lot of it has to do with speed. So,
Yeah.
like with the guy versus the bone dude, because he was doing the drunken style, he was
Mhm.
moving super fast, and that's why I was saying
yeah,
that they just need the hint of
well,
him connecting, so you don't have to see all of his the veins or the even his fabric. Like it was
yeah,
just basically just painted to look like he's wearing clothes, but it's not as detailed as the scene right before that because you don't need it. Like cut all the details. They're gonna be moving super fast. Go from there. I think it doesn't work with Pain because they're not moving quickly. Like they're just kind of just fighting and like big explosions and stuff are happening. And so you're just sitting with a scene that has very little details, but nothing, no movement to justify it. And so it just looks poor. You know what I'm saying? But
I mean,
back on
it,
Trigun
yeah,
before
Trigon.
we go too far. What
Oh, oh,
did
oh,
you get a chance to catch it, Tess?
I saw like the first 5 minutes,
Word.
and because I don't have a TV right now, and I can't be watching stuff on my phone because concussion, eyes,
Right.
pain. Yeah. But I saw the first 5 minutes. The whole escaping from an exploding ship, and that was awesome.
okay.
I just thought I was like, that's a great opener. was a great opener. And I think for anybody who saw the series, the original series, it's just a callback. It's just like, oh, okay, we remember in the show, it was just, what is it? I don't remember. Is it the last episode, when they show them both, and Knives like um kills the butterfly?
I think it's either it's right before the last or the last one.
Yeah. And so it's just anybody who had watched it, it's just their brain is just going right back and be like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I thought that that was just really cool to kind of pull us back before moving forward.
Yeah.
And at least that's what it should have done for people. I mean, I would hope it did. I would hope so for people who have seen it. I think there's probably a lot of viewers, a lot of people who have not seen the original Trigun who are catching it. I mean, there's so many anime nerds now, like people who are like, yeah, I'm an anime nerd, and I just like hate everyone because I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. To be considered an anime nerd, you need to be like at least 37 years old. Like
Okay,
otherwise,
we're not gonna gatekeep, but I feel you though. I feel
I
you. I
I don't
feel
know.
you.
I don't know. There's enough anime out now to where you could have 60 series under your belt
yeah.
and be under the age of 20.
I mean, but that's different though, because these people, they're young. It's different. It's like old heads. It's like our parents when
Nah,
they're like, "You
nah,
don't
nah,
know
nah,
music." You get what I'm
nah,
saying?
nah. You know what? I dislike those people.
Yes, but
Well, now wait.
now
I
I am one of them. But
Uh,
now I am one of them because I'm of the
ooh,
appropriate age
ooh,
to
we
be one
got
of those
beef.
people.
We got beef.
I was about to say, are you saying that because you're younger? Is that what you're saying? Like,
Ooh, me?
yeah,
Me? No, absolutely not. It's. I look at it like somebody could have why they could put in so many more hours than you watching this and be younger, and
But
not
it's
to knock
cool
it,
now.
not
But
to
that's the
knock
thing.
it.
It's cool now. It wasn't cool when we were doing it.
Well,
That's why
I'm
I'm saying the term nerd. Like we were nerds. Like if we were into anime, we were not cool. We're nerds. Because when we were young, it literally wasn't the cool thing to do. The cool thing to do was be out here playing football and baseball and doing all kinds of nonsense. And you had to have a small group of people, or people are like, oh wait, oh my god, you like this too? Oh, you're into Robotech? Oh cool, you're into Gundam? Like, and then you had to get your little friends over in a corner. So because everybody else
yeah.
thought you were
I,
weird.
I think it
Everybody
was
else
hey,
thought you were weird or a nerd.
to be
Now
honest.
you're not a nerd. You can walk out in public right now wearing every type of shonen anime shirt and you're cool as hell.
hey,
Like,
I got a Naruto jacket.
yeah,
It's all orange with the Tomo on it and the spiral in the front. And you
and
know
it
what I
looks
do?
fly as hell, I'm sure.
Oh, it's fire. It's fire. Shout out to my wife. Um,
But
and
no,
I want the Akutsuki robe. I'm just gonna put that out there if anybody loves me. I want the Akutsuki robe, all black with the red clouds. I'm just gonna say thank you.
Katsuki.
I'm just gonna say thank you because it's already coming. It's already
but you
Mm,
know
coming.
what? That I will say, I think that was like that until Dragon Ball. I think once Dragon Ball came out, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is anime," and then it kind of became a cool because like a lot of, at least in high school, I remember a lot of people was like into Dragon Ball Z, and so then I could
mhm.
bring up, Armitage, or I could bring up Akira or whatever, and it'd
Oh,
it'd be okay. You got intro
Mhm.
music? What you doing?
I'm sorry. It was I'm standing outside on the balcony so I can project my voice and not wake Noah. And this rude ass train decides to honk its horn like
Oh my
20 miles
goodness.
away. And yeah, so I'm sorry. I muted the mic. I hit the button.
You good? You
We got
good?
words for the train.
No,
That's
Yeah,
rude of
yeah.
them.
It's
That's
gonna see
rude.
me. It's gonna have to see me off tracks.
right.
But
But yeah, but no, I think like I think this is a good episode for Trigon, and like you said, I think that was really smart what you were saying, Tess, about them going backwards but going forward,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
it did act like a kind of like a reminder of where we ended, so
Yeah.
almost in a way of like making a sequel but not a sequel, like,
Mm.
oh, we were just here and now we're
Mhm.
going
yeah.
backwards. I think that's really really smart.
Yeah.
Next thing we wanted to talk about was the show Alice in Borderland. Now, I have seen it. I've seen season 1 and season 2, and Tess had made mention, last week that we wanted to talk about it and get a spoiler cast on it because we wanted to break it down and things that we saw and whatnot. And I just hadn't seen it yet. On top of that, though, my brother listened to that episode and he felt the way about how Tess was talking about
Mm-hmm.
Alice in
Mm-hmm.
Borderland. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. So
She, she,
Tess hit me up and was like, "Hey, he want to come on?" And I was like, "Hey, I'll ask him. We see what's good." And so he's on the show, and we're gonna talk about Alice in Borderland. But before we get to y'all, let me break down what just a little bit for myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I think this is the first time, and not that we don't. I guess me and Tess typically don't disagree for the most part. I think we just have a range, right? I think Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix Cowboy Bebop show, was bad, and Tess thinks it's horrendous and everyone should be fired. And
Yeah.
so
I
that's
mean,
kind of
worse
how we
than
were.
that, I think that they should be held over open fire.
See,
oh my God.
that's that
See, see, Tess, hey, Tess be talking out the side of her neck on both sides. Like,
Hey,
good God.
hey,
yeah. So
I have a lot of emotions.
I
I feel
see.
you. I feel you. And so
She got passion.
right.
Hmm.
And so, but in this sense, but at the same time, we still agree that it wasn't a good show. I think
Right,
in
right,
this
right.
sense, I think we might be a little bit, differ a little bit. I do see what you were
Hmm.
saying though. A lot of the show feels like an anime
Hmm.
in a
Yeah.
way that doesn't do it justice,
No.
and and doing it that way, it does take it for. There's a lot of scenes that take me out of the show because it just doesn't feel right as opposed to like Squid Games where it was more
Right.
realistic and the acting and everything was more realistic and it was able to convey what it was trying to convey in a manner that felt real, whereas
Yeah.
this not so much. And I think
Yeah.
that in anime we kind of let that go because we understand it's animated, so
Hmm.
people being over the top, just like we were talking about Trigun, and Vash and whatnot, people being over the top, we kind of understand that and we get it. In a
Hmm.
place that's trying to play everything straight, it's like, oh, this scene doesn't really flow here. Like this
It
is,
doesn't translate.
you know what I mean? It doesn't translate. That being said, I was entertained. I was actually
Yeah.
entertained by it. And in some aspects, I still think Squid Games is a better show, but in some
It
aspects,
is.
better than Squid Games. And I'm gonna break that down in a sec. First, let's talk about the first season, right? For anybody who hasn't, this is the spoiler moment, folks. If you do not want the show to be spoiled, bounce. Thank you for listening, hanging out with us. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and all that good stuff. And
Bye
for the people,
bye.
right, peace. But for the people who want to, listen, that you've seen the show or you don't care about spoilers, you may continue. Cool. This show is actually is really interesting the way they set this
Bye.
up.
Hey, we appreciate you, but you got. Oh,
Spaghetti.
oh, Kenny, your mic is acting a little funky. I think.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can
Oh,
Yeah.
you hear me?
oh, you're back now. You're back.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. For
Um,
a brief moment, it kind of went dark.
It was almost like the bye-bye was an automatic shutdown, and I didn't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I knew I got my powers on the winter solstice a year ago. I follow Black Twitter, like I knew, but I didn't realize it heck had that power.
yo,
You know what I'm
you
saying?
sent me to the borderland. Like I
I
don't know.
Nah,
really did.
nah. It was like that old Xbox 360 moment when
Mm,
you be in the game chat and you just say, "Hey Xbox, turn off," and you just see like 6 people disconnect. Like,
gone. Thanos
Apparently,
snapped.
good night. All right. So yeah, first season. Um, for the people who I assume you've seen it if you're going to be listening to this part. So I'm not going to break down everything that happens. I thought it was interesting how these people are sucked into a new world or a world that seems adjacent to the one they came from,
Mhm.
and they were forced to play games, and at the same time dealing with their own personal issues and stuff like that, similar to Squid Games, except for these aren't people didn't decide to join. This was something that they were taken or and forced to do all these different games and whatnot. So that premise was interesting to me,
Mhm.
and I liked the cast and just the stuff that they would get into their conversations and stuff like that. There would be
Mhm.
moments though. How do you say the main character's name? Asuri
Ar- Arisu,
Arisu.
Arisu.
Like
Arisu.
Alice. It's basically the Japanese pronunciation of Alice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Arisu.
Arisu. So he is the lead, and I think he does a decent job with his role, and I think he does a decent job. There's a thing that happens with, and that I like with Japanese animation, where a lot of things that are, let's say, like honor, loyalty, respect, they put them above a lot of just everything, right? And because they do that, their feelings are pretty much on their sleeves the whole time. You know, to dishonor someone or to be loyal to someone is so huge that in the midst of an apocalyptic event, that's what you're concerned with. And for me, while I admire that, in some aspects it doesn't really work. And with anime, like I said, it works fine. But in here, it's like, oh, we're playing things straight. We understand that you lost your mom, and so you are dealing with depression and things like that. You're with your friends, and they help you through it. But there's a point where he is trying to, how do you put it? He's trying to be the bigger person, or he's trying to be like, he feels like, I need to save everyone. I shouldn't be the person that lives. I'm not doing anything with my life and stuff like that. And he goes about trying to save his friends. It doesn't work out, unfortunately. And it's like, while I understand the gesture, I understand the move, it doesn't feel realistic in how you went about expressing it, because
Mhm.
it's very much, I don't want to say over the top, because I don't want people to feel like a passionate display of love is bad, but there's moments where it feels like you can't be serious right now. Like, someone just
Mhm.
got shot in the face, and you are you're very much crying over, you know, I don't know, the lineage of, like, it just doesn't work. You are so concerned
Right.
with the intricacies, or the intricacies between people, and the dynamics between people, that
Mhm.
you fail to realize that people are dying at a certain point. And that's really weird for me. There's a good scene in, I want to say, well, let me not get to the second season, but there are certain scenes where I just can't believe him. I just can't. Like, he throws me left, and I can't do anything with him.
Does it
Um,
make you do you feel like they like it's almost like a soap opera writer was like, "Hey, this is gonna be a really good scene," so they just put it in there and said, "Alice, this is what you're gonna do."
I feel like it. You know how, like, if you ever had older, you were your grandparents or whatever, they love Days of Our Lives, or any of those type
Mhm.
of shows. There would be a scene with someone in the hospital, and someone is like, you know, it's really emotional that this person got hurt in an accident or whatever.
Mhm.
And then it's like someone walks in, and it's like it's the actor, and you're like, who are you? And they're like, that was my twin brother. That's not really me. And it's like, bum bum bum, and it's like, wait, I'm supposed to take this serious? This is comical.
Right.
That is kind of
Yeah.
like that, but to a lesser degree. It feels
Mhm.
just like a soap opera, like you said.
It does. Those
And it
are those are issues that I have because like at the end of the day, it's entertaining, and that's why I was like, you got 20 hours, go and do it.
Right.
It's entertaining. There's nothing not entertaining about this because even when it's stupid, it's like I'm gonna laugh here because it's so dumb, but I'm gonna keep watching because at the end of the day, the driving factor behind this series, the driving factor behind being like watching this on Netflix is that we don't know what's going on, so we need to keep watching to find out.
Right.
And it's entertaining enough that we're going to watch every episode, no matter how ridiculous some of the stuff is, or no matter how like shonen tropey it is, we're going to keep watching. And I think that that's literally where they banked on that because they knew the story is good enough where people will literally just it doesn't even matter. They're going to watch it. You're going to make the money off of it because people are going to watch this. And one of the things that I like issue that I took with that is like I think if we can watch the show and be like it's good, it's entertaining, this show actually could have been better
Better.
than
Exactly.
entertaining.
Yep.
It could have
All right.
been top tier, god level. Wow, this is an amazing show because they have the basis of it. I mean, first of all, you already have the Alice in Wonderland basis, so that's great. It's all based off of that, and then you had this really really cool just anytime there's an alternate world, an adjacent world that you enter and you don't know how you got there and you don't know how to get back. How many animes have we seen like that? Come on.
It's a whole
Like El
genre.
Hazard literally made an entire show, 3 shows out of it.
It's a genre. Yeah.
It's a total
So
genre. And so you have all of the tools, the supplies, the flour, the butter, the eggs, they're all there. And so you're gonna have something decent no matter what. It's like when people say you can't really mess up a sourdough. You have the tools. It's gonna be there.
Right.
But I'm looking at, if you like truly break down everything the way you kind of break down anything. If you literally break everything on the show down to its pieces, it's like, okay, well, you didn't do really any real true character development, and you had 1,000 characters. It's a new character
I,
every episode.
Yeah.
for
And
me,
go ahead, Brandon.
uh, I'm gonna just come out and say I ain't had no problem with it. See me on that. See me on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I ain't had no problem with it. You know why? You know why? Nah, real for real though. Being a fan of the manga first
Mm-hmm.
and knowing what time it was on when I saw it, I was like, oh, I gotta watch this, right?
Yeah.
So excusing the fanboyism, I knew why I was watching it. I
Uh-huh.
wanted to just see the games roll out, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's the same thing with Squid Games, right? Like let's be honest, we didn't watch Squid Game for the story. We watched it to see what type of games they were gonna play and
I
how it
watched
played
it for
out.
Storm
Uh,
Shadow. I don't know what you're talking
I
about. I
watched
was
it
just
for the
waiting for
story.
Storm Shadow.
nah,
I needed Storm Shadow to pop. That's my man right there. He popped up at the end. I said, that's my man. But that's anyway.
No, I
That was
watched it for the story because I couldn't.
story.
I couldn't. I that I not Tess. I did. I watched it for the story,
I
be,
did.
because it was
I,
the games actually made it harder for me, and I kind of mentioned that
Yeah,
when we broke down Squid
yeah,
Games before,
we did.
because it was Squid Games was so real, and which is such a different thing from this, which is why I could laugh at this because
Mm-hmm.
it made it certain things were emphasized in Squid Games that wasn't emphasized here, and
right.
so
Um,
seeing like hearing the gunshots over and over while the screen is like they have a close up of someone's face as they're living in
yeah.
the moment. There's some stuff that just bothered me really badly. So if the story sucked, which it kind of, towards the end, we ain't gonna get into that. But
Uh,
I wouldn't have kept watching, like for sure.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
for
No, I yeah.
I get that. I get that. For me, I didn't do that. I didn't do all of that. I'm not gonna hold you because like you could for me right you could have a really good story and I
Uh-huh.
still not enjoy what I'm watching.
Oh yeah, of
Um,
course, of course.
Oh
so
yeah, that
so
happens.
so I kind of have like this compartmentalization thing for these types of movies, right? Like I love disaster movies. I
You're
just
like
want to
Sam.
see. I didn't know. Well, don't get me wrong. I am very critical of movies, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
critical of the movie or show for what I want out of it, not as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Got
So,
it.
so like 2012, I can say the story for 2012 is terrible. Like a lot of people made a dumb decisions. They even could have pissed me off, right? But I'm not there for these people. I want to see blow up. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm sitting at home or you go to the movies, you see the trailer for 2012, right? And he's driving a limo through a fallen building. I was sold right there. All right, I got to see it. I gotta see it. I don't care what they talking about. I got to see it. And so it was the same thing with Alice and Borderlands. Like I kind of knew what to expect from the characters and everything.
Yeah.
And I really just wanted to see that. So from that standpoint, I won't give it a 10. I give it like a 7.5. You
Yeah,
know.
that's fair.
Um, but everything else is just blank. I didn't care about the character development. I didn't care about any of that. I
Neither did
watched
the
it.
writers.
I ooh, shots fired. Um, but to be fair, like in a pure, like I just want to see the games. I just want to see it live. You know what I'm saying? Not on paper. I just want to see it moving.
Yeah.
Um, I was what's the word? I was good on that.
Fulfilled.
I was fulfilled. You know what I'm saying? It sufficed. Um, and then because the uh oh gosh, what's the name of that movie with the black chick main character? Escape Room. Yeah, like though, like I love those movies.
Oh God, I hate those.
I
Ah
never
man.
even
Exactly,
watched those.
exactly. Like they're not good. They're not good, but I like them
At
But
least
you,
you
because
can
but you,
objectively say that.
but you know the thing is, like, well, with me, I can like bad things. Like I like the Fast and the Furious series. It's not
Yeah,
good, but
and we
like
know they're bad.
there has to be some type of effort though. Like there has to
but
be. It's like dang, like you even in your so like you built you built these rules, you built these standards. Like you have a standard of what you're trying to give me, and you're failing at the standard that you gave. Like if you're trying to be a comedy and you're not funny at all, then you failed. Even if if the comedy is lowbrow, is highbrow, if it's
Mm-hmm.
potty humor, it at least has to be funny. That's the basis.
right,
If I say your
Yeah.
movie has, if you have an escape room movie where people are dying, being electrocuted, blown up, and I say the movie was boring, I fell asleep, that is something wrong there. Like, there's,
right,
you know what I'm
right.
saying? Like,
But
it has
see,
to be a little bit more than that.
there also that also could be um in the sense of like the traps, if you will. The traps are good, but they're just not enough of them. But so it's just like you have to be able to compartmentalize on
Mm-hmm.
certain things. Um, I could say the acting was bad, or I could simply say it's how they act over there. Like if you watch Days of Our Lives and then you turn around and watch a Hispanic soap opera, it's going to be two totally different styles of acting. Um, or like you see like an action movie and then you go look at like an American action movie and then you go look at like an Indonesian action movie, how they do their scenes. I guess they call it like what, a Bollywood action movie. Um,
In
yeah,
India. In
yeah.
India? Wait. Are we in India or Indonesia?
My
Right.
bad. My
There's
bad.
two
My
different
bad.
places, dog.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
See, so we
I'm
see,
including all of them.
you destroyed your point. Your point is messed. Nah, I get what you're
Nah,
saying, but I think there's like a basis. Like for instance, in Alice in Borderland, right? The people acted well. It wasn't so much that. It was there is because there's only certain points. There are points where, or there's segments where all the characters
it's
are
unbelievable.
all the characters are great. Like everything is running as it should. Like
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
witness something happen. This is a realistic. Like for instance,
Yeah.
when the two main characters,
Yeah, I
Alice
know
Alice,
and
you talking about.
Usagi.
Yeah.
yes, those two, when they're
She's the
in,
rabbit. Her Usagi means rabbit, everybody.
yeah,
Yeah, Usagi. Yeah.
when they're talking about going back to the regular world and she doesn't want to go because of
Oh,
her father.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment between them, and like he goes to touch her shoulder, and it's now it's reflective of their relationship at that point in time, but it's also reflective of what just happened a few scenes prior to that. And it's subtle, but it works very, very well. And you get it. Like someone just tried to rape me. I don't want anybody touching me right now.
Yeah.
And et cetera, right? And so it works.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't blow up anything in terms of like this super huge passionate display of anguish or whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be. It was just like hey, don't and then she turns cold after that. And he
Yeah.
recognizes it, and then other people start to recognize it, and it's like, oh, this is good writing right here because it's
Mm-hmm. What
subtle
happened
enough.
between you guys?
Exactly. And there's something that's causing a rift between you or whatever, and people don't they don't know, but there's so that's a subtle thing. Then there's another scene where like something will happen and it's like it's blown up to this huge proportion and it doesn't like people are so there's like a passionate speech. Like there's so many speeches in this freaking show.
Speeches.
Right? Like
Y'all,
it's like
okay? I'm
come
sorry. The
on. Like
shonenism. This is why sometimes I have a real hard time with some of the shonens. Like, I mean, it's not like they're not in shojos too, but the soliloquies, y'all, they are ridiculous. And I'm like, if they spent less time on the soliloquies and just did a little bit more in, yeah, I mean, obviously showing, not telling,
right.
that those are just some areas where I wish that we could have gotten better stuff, because that's where sometimes the acting ends up breaking down. For
Yes.
like okay, so Mira, the girl who plays Mira, she's actually a good actor, and I just wanted to stab her in season 1. Because I was like, what is happening here? I mean, they had her literally being that typical female anime villain with they had the haircut, the
Yeah.
actual haircut, they and just the whole little like the rolling of her voice. And like the it was so animatedly irritating
Yes.
and unrealistic. And so it made me like hate this character. It made me not believe this character. Just she just wasn't real. And you're supposed to be making this idea that what if this could happen? What if we could end up in an adjacent world and making it realistic? And this was just bringing me back to something that just wasn't realistic. It was just making it very animated.
Yeah.
And
Well,
hmm,
um, those characters were somewhat supposed to be like that.
I
By the
know they were. They in the that's my point. My point is like I literally am watching this on TV and I'm like I feel like I'm reading a manga. I should have just read the manga because there's a difference between watching something in an animated a medium, watching
yeah,
it in a live action medium and reading it.
right.
And it's like the characters just came off of the page but didn't translate into real life. And that's in when that happens it comes off as like bad acting. And that
To
sucks
Yeah.
because
to
she's not actually a bad actor. If when you see when she's playing the doctor and like the part where she's like being really serious and she starts to cry, like she's a good actor.
to me, that didn't bother me. Like, okay, let me ask you. You read the manga, right? I'm
No,
assuming.
I didn't.
Okay, so um, granted, it stands alone. The manga kind of does a better bit of explaining it.
Yeah.
Everybody else in the show is they're people, right? Like
Mhm.
they're you know what happened.
Mhm.
Everybody they're people. The kings or the face cards, I should say, they
Mhm.
aren't. So it makes sense to me of
Wait.
all of them. No, they're not people.
Well,
The
that's not what
face
they say in the show.
the face cards aren't people. Now
They
they never say that they are people. They were there from the start.
no
They
no
were
no
there.
no. They made a point in the show in
They
the
made a
second
point.
season to say that they were actually people who decided to be citizens.
Yeah.
At the end of the episode, well, they actually said it in multiple episodes, but at the end of the final episode, they're like these people decided to become citizens, and then they became cards after that. But they actually were pulled from a previous life, just like these
Yeah.
people were.
They said it in the show, and then even it's very specific in the episode where you have the choice to keep playing the game. Like remember the tag game? It's
Right.
like it was tag on that boat or that big barge or whatever. They
Yeah.
Right.
were very specific in that episode in saying like that is what happened.
No,
And so
how
no,
I
I get it. So you're saying it's different in the manga.
took for the show. How I took it for the show was that they could just live there. A lot of people, what is it? They would just continue playing the games. And so like on the boat,
Mhm.
they was like, we can basically not have to go back to our crappy lives. That was the
Right.
big decision. And then because at that point in time, nobody knew what um accepting or declining
Mhm.
meant. They didn't
But the
know.
leader but the leader the point is that the leader had said it. Like the leaders
Right.
like we know why she's the leader of the game is because she made that choice. And then what's his face when they do the episode where the band where the band
Mm-hmm.
members or what's his face who's from Tokyo Vice. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Ah, it's the from Tokyo Vice," where he's naked the whole
Right.
episode. Like
Yeah.
they make a point to make that clear, like that these were regular people who were excelling. They were getting through they were surviving in the world, and it's like, hey, you're so good, they get offered the opportunity to basically be a face card. If you keep winning, you'll live forever and you'll be fine and you won't have to do all the nonsense that you've been doing for however long you've been here. So they make that very clear in the show that's what they want us to believe by the time we get later on into season 2. Like and if that's not made clear in the manga to make you keep wondering, I mean, that's fine. because that's at least where there's a difference.
Yeah, because
And
in the
I
oh, sorry,
in
go
the
ahead.
it just makes the point is that because I get the point you're making, Brandon, is like if in the manga they're not real people, like if they are almost like inhabiting the raiment of people, so that when you meet these face cards in the show we're watching, you can understand why they're coming
Yeah.
off very animated because they're not real. Like
Mm,
I totally get what you were saying. And even if that is the case, the show does a bad job of translating that.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. That's why I said the manga did a better job.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the thing, like, because they make a point to say, like, before she dies, the um on the barge or whatever, the main person, she's like,
Mhm.
well, I didn't want to go back to my crappy life. Like, I wanted to stay here.
Yeah.
And then all the flashbacks that they have, like with the lawyer guy who was the one of the kings and all that, it's like, no, they had a life outside of this, and they were brought
Mhm.
here. And so it's like, well, you chose to stay, which is very interesting considering how it ends. As far
Mhm.
as like going backwards though, how I feel about, and we had made mention of this before, like it needs to stand on its own. I was talking
Mhm.
to someone about the movie It, and how I didn't like certain characteristics of the clown or whatever, just being too wacky at certain points because it's not
Mhm.
scary. And someone made mention of the book and how the book was, he's supposed to be this way in the book, and I'm like, I get you, but there's a difference in we're switching mediums now.
Mhm.
If I haven't read the book, and who cares if I did,
Mm.
if I'm looking at this medium, this does not translate well to this medium because what is, if I'm reading a book and this person's supposed to be wacky, but I'm supposed to be afraid of it, my imagination is going to come up with some type of freaky whatever. If
Yeah.
I'm seeing it, I'm seeing your version of this, and he's wacky, like on some Jim Carrey stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be frightful. It's not gonna be fearful. You know what I mean? Like it's just weird, and so it doesn't translate well. So that's something you should tweak. And so if this is the case with the show, with them being like they're not supposed to be people or whatever the case may be, and you wanted to make them real people, you need to tweak some of that. But
Mhm.
even outside of that, let's take out the kings, the queens, and all that.
Mhm.
The main cast also did a lot of this cartoony stuff too, you know,
Yep.
and it's like, bro, like what do you do? Because here's the thing, with Alice in Borderland as a TV show and not a manga or an anime, where the idea isn't to be, you want this to be to affect someone who's watching this. You want this to be,
Yeah.
you want them to fear for someone. You want them to care for someone. And so if they're depicting this as something real, like when people actually got hurt, or like one of the episodes in, or like when the first season starts, the first episode of the second season starts, where it's
That
like
episode.
shooting,
Oh
right?
god.
Like
Yeah,
the
that was
people,
Bruh.
crazy.
people getting shot, like it sounded real, and it was actually kind of bothersome, with all the mass shootings that we have, right? And so, but then there's moments later, you have this weird scene that's happening, and it's like, oh, I've been pulled so far out of it that okay, this isn't as impactful anymore. I can watch all these scenes. People can get blown up. They can. It doesn't. It feels like Mortal Kombat. It's laughable. It's, you know what I mean. Like it's not as, whereas in Squid Games, just someone holding a pistol to someone's head and then walking around shooting folks, just was unnerving at certain points because the way
Yeah.
they shot it, the way they held the camera on people's faces and all this other stuff. So the treatment is very lighthearted and very whatever, but they still want that, response from you. And I feel like they only got it in certain episodes where they weren't trying to be silly. Like for instance, one of the
Mhm.
best episodes, or I don't want to say episodes, but one of the best scenes was the second to last episodes where they were fighting was it the King of Spades or whatever, the guy who was shooting up the place.
Yeah, and everybody gets stabbed.
They got effed all the way up.
They all
They
got
got
messed up.
tore up, but like the
Yeah.
choreography and everything was great. And but as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, like when the chick who was missing a leg got shot up, like
Mhm.
my jaw hit the floor. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I didn't see that
Yeah.
coming.
None of us did.
And I
And what
thought
happened?
That was really good.
when the girl got shot, the one that,
Oh, and
yeah, no, not Anne.
yeah.
That
Oh,
was
oh, the one
Not
with the
Ann.
leg. The one with the
right.
leg.
Uh,
Haya.
I can't.
Honestly, I swore her name was Kasumi, and it's not. Not Kasumi, not Kasumi. What's the Shrine Maiden's name from that game with Kasumi? What's the Shrine Maiden's
Oh my
name?
gosh.
Momiji. Her
Yes.
name is Momiji. I I literally was
It,
calling this girl Momiji, but I
it's like
don't remember her name.
it's like Kaya or something like that with the bow and arrow chick.
Yes,
Yeah.
her.
Yeah,
When
But
she
and
she
got
got
she
so much going on. She got bow and arrow and she's missing a leg. And it's just like, wait, what's happening?
she turned
yeah
into a ninja overnight. It's
when
Oh,
she
come on, y'all. Come on.
when
Like,
she
oh,
when she when she ran up and she grabbed the barrel, I was like, up, that's it. She done. She done. Yep, she did.
But see,
yo.
it's crazy because I didn't expect that, right? But then I was
Yeah,
like, the impact of that scene was startling. Mind you, I don't
Yeah.
know this. We don't really know this character. We saw her
yeah,
two
a
episodes
few
ago.
times. Yeah,
So
Yeah.
the fact that it hit very hard was the treatment. It was very realistic.
Yeah.
Not her
Yeah.
flipping and stuff, but her getting shot was very
Yeah.
realistic. And so it had the effect that they were trying to do with the main characters. Like
Mhm.
Anne getting shot, it was only impactful because we know Anne. It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't as impactful as this one though, because it
yeah,
was
Right.
very, I guess the word is visceral.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And it felt real. Where the other stuff was just comical. Like it's just like
Mhm.
I like people getting hit with lasers in the heads and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. It's like it doesn't feel real. So I am any
Well,
type of tension is gone whenever you do the anime stuff. Is what I'm trying to say. And in certain scenes they didn't do the anime. They were just like, we're just gonna be real, and it was
And those
like
were really successful.
exactly extremely successful.
So there's something I want to point out. Okay, so the obviously season 2 episode 1. All right. This was ridiculous. Now, mind you, it was a great opener. Okay. It was a great opener because it was so much action going on, right? It was a
Yeah,
lot. And so even anybody who hadn't seen like when Alice in Borderland the first season was 2020, so like I saw it a long time ago. And I feel like it's been a long time now that I'm seeing season 2. So literally I was like, okay, I don't even remember what the last episode of season 1 was, whatever. And and so we're opening on all this action, right?
yeah.
But this is where we fail. It's really action packed. It's like, oh my god, okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. Woohoo. And then you hear what Chishaya or whatever his name is say that's an anti-tank gun. Remember, the bullets are coming from everywhere. People are getting shot everywhere. There's not a regular sight line like where you can see, oh, only people over here are getting shot, so the gunman is over here, or only people over here get every there. It was just everywhere. People were just getting shot, like bullets were just being sprayed. So what ended up being weird, especially with Chishaya going, "Oh my god, that's an anti-tank gun." It's like, wait a minute. So is somebody shooting an anti-tank gun, or are we getting shot from the air? It became confusing because it's like, wait, where it is the stakes are high because people are dying and we don't know how to protect ourselves. But what's interesting is that Chishaya goes, "That's an anti-tank gun, so hiding behind a car isn't going to help." Those are his words
And
because
he's hiding behind a car.
literally a person hid behind a car and died, and then he literally says hiding behind a car isn't going to work, and then literally all of them go and hide behind cars and they live. There is so much plot armor in that first episode. It was like watching the Battle of the Bastards again and watching Jon Snow live when he should have
well,
died 7 times.
well. All right. So that first episode, that part isn't what did it for me because naturally, even if you think it's not gonna help, you're gonna cover behind something,
Yeah,
right?
like a
So,
building. None of them ran into the buildings.
Which
well,
was
they don't
weird.
know. Well, they don't know. They don't know if the person is in there. They're trying to figure it out. Right. I agree. Uh, Sitting on the couch saying, "Hey, run into the building." That's clear mind thinking.
Right,
Being shot
until they
at.
actually run into the buildings at the end. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they get away from the shooting and then they go into a building. Cause you remember they have like the whole car scene and he's chasing him and then the car accident, then they run into the building after they. Now
And
the part
seemingly no one gets pursued. It's all over the place. It's
the
literally all over the place.
The reason why those are okay for me is I just said maybe you picked a different target. Look, there's 100 people. I'm not gonna like focus fire six. I'm gonna be going for the masses. Um, if I was who's that King of Spades? If
Mhm.
I was, I'm just letting it rip. Now, what was surprising is that he got into a car and started chasing them. You just don't.
Yeah,
Now that was surprising.
it
Now, but
was.
I'm gonna tell you the most ridiculous part of that scene for me. Shishaya, I get his character type.
Yes, we know. And he was running with his hands in his
But
pockets.
he's running with his hands in his
Like,
pocket.
what the
Blew
hell?
blew my mind. Um, that's what did it. I'm like, I don't know why, but that infuriated me. I'm
It
still
did.
I still ain't got no problems with the show. You ain't gonna get me to
I
switch. Uh, but with that,
I watched that with my friend. We were watching it together because I had already seen it. I watched episode 1 twice because my friend came over later and we watched it together. And I'm like, I said to her, because she's like, oh my God, oh my God. And I said, girl, there's gonna be so many questions. You're gonna have so many questions. Literally, as everything is happening. She's like, wait, what? No, how did and then when he is running with his hands in his pockets, she was done. And she's like, I cannot. And I'm like, this is what I don't understand. I was like, this is an anime character. This is something that would have been hilarious in Honey and Clover if Morita was running with his hands in his pockets because that is something
but,
he would do. That
but
is lit.
to be
Yeah.
fair, to be fair, he's only taken his hands out of his pockets 3 times in the entire show.
So it was extra absurd.
So it's right. He took his hands out of his pockets. I can tell you every time he did it. He took his hands out of his pockets when they did the two horsemen game
Mhm.
at the hotel. When he was at the top and he was like, this should be a good view. I could see everything here.
Mhm.
And he leans on the balcony. He takes it off then. Uh, he takes his hands out of his pockets in his flashbacks, but I'm not counting those because they're not in the games.
Okay, they're not in the games.
He does
Um,
tase somebody too.
he takes his hands out of his pockets on the last episode of season 1 where he throws the cards in the air and he hits Inagi with the
Mm.
not
Mhm.
Unagi, what's his name?
Nike. Mm,
Not Niragi
yeah.
with the flamethrower. And then he takes his hands out of his pockets to
Wait, can we pause right there though?
On
Can,
Niragi, can we
can we pause on the makeshift flamethrower and the makeshift taser and the makeshift bombs that he makes? Like this dude was a doctor. And why does he
a
know what a
doctor?
freaking anti-tank weapon is? Like, why does he just know this stuff? Like,
I
just out of nowhere. I can see if he had a
oh,
military background,
annoying.
I,
and talk about plot armor. Can we talk about why nobody dies?
No,
Like,
that was literally the parallel that I'm making from episode 1 to the last to the episode with the King of Spades. That is
yeah.
literally the parallel. The amount of plot armor that was necessary to keep them all alive. Okay, because the stuff that they were getting into was absolutely ridiculous. And that being one, it does not make sense how none of them were hurt. And I get it. They were surprised, the characters are supposed to be surprised too. They're like, oh my God, you're okay. Oh my God, you're okay. But everything that they did, every action that they did, there was no reason why any of them came out alive.
Well,
Especially because of the randomness of the firing until you see the guy show up and he's actually doing direct firing. That's why it never made sense who was actually shooting. Like you see him shooting, all of those bullets that came before the King of Spades was visibly present just didn't make any sense and it was never answered. We were never answered if there was actually some anti-tank or whatever coming from the blimp. The only thing they said came from the blimp was ammunition for him to reload.
yeah,
And
resupply.
then if you go all the way to the episode where they fight him one on one and they're all getting like decimated, it's insane. And then you literally just realize you're like, okay, they just needed enough plot armor to get to this moment so that everybody could like have what's that moment in Shippuden when everybody dies that one episode and then they use the thing and then everybody comes back to life?
right with the fight after
Uh,
pain. Yeah.
Yes, the fight after pain. So that was literally a that moment where they all don't die. They're all I'm like Chishaya was supposed he literally was supposed to be dead and I mean, what's her face? The girl we don't know her name got machine gunned to the torso. Her
Yeah.
lungs should have 8 bullets in them. She should not be breathing. And she manages, through the power of love, to crawl
Yeah.
over to her boy.
For some for some Negro she barely knows.
She don't know
You
him.
don't know
the,
this
the,
dude.
Didn't she try to
the,
rape Alice? She literally pounced on Alice like two
I'm the
episodes prior.
the power of friendship. Um,
It's the
Oh,
power of family.
see,
It's family.
look, man, look. And see that's the problem. That's the problem. I
that's the
see what the
problem.
problem. You
We thinking
wanted
too hard.
you thinking too much. You supposed to say, "Ooh, I like game." Like that's what it's supposed to be. I'm trying to tell
Okay,
you. I'm not. Look,
you're right.
look,
You're right.
look. Because not once in the defense of Alice in Borderlands did I ever say that it was the most spectacular writing. I said I went
You,
in knowing what
yeah,
to expect,
you did.
and
But you went in knowing, and we didn't.
Yeah,
I
we
We
ain't,
understand.
we
went
ain't, we ain't
No,
know
in.
any of that.
I understand that, and that's fair. That's fair. I just wipe that from your memory. Do you
You're
like the
right.
show?
Okay. So how about this? Okay, so instead of all of these other things that we're just like, yo, fam, this is like really, really making this hard for me to accept. I want to actually talk about some of these games and again plot armor. But for real, like I thought the games were going to like cool. Like okay, this is interesting, especially when you finally figure some of it out. But some of it again was so tropey. It was
I,
so tropey that it wasn't even cool.
I honestly think the biggest plot armor was Chishaya's game.
His final game, like come
The
on.
acid. I think the acid was the biggest plot armor, but I forgot the name of the game. The one where he's in the prison. I think that's just him being smart.
He was smart
Bruh,
and I
how did he survive that? I had questions on
he
that one.
shouldn't have.
Well,
It seemed like he just guessed at the end.
um,
Well,
he
well,
definitely Batman that game.
Right,
yeah.
like
Well,
He definitely.
either he 100% Batmaned it, or because of the fact that he knew the answer, like at least because of the fact that he knew who the person was, he knew was it Joker? Like he knew who the bad person was and the other person knew it too. I'm not sure if because they both knew and they knew each other wasn't it, because the point is if you knew who the person was, you knew who the bad guy was, they could have off camera helped each other, and
well
they
that's
knew
a,
Well,
the other person was lying. They knew the
well,
girl was lying. Like they already, when they got down to the last five, the people who live literally already knew who the person was. So
yeah.
if they off camera talked to each other, I can understand that, because at that point there's no reason for anybody else to die.
see,
They
here's my beef with that. They at the last scene, he says like he knew who they were because they were passing cookies basically back and
Uh
forth
huh.
about
Yeah.
and the two dudes, the two creepy guys or whatever,
Yeah.
they had partnered up, and he was like, when did you guys start trusting each other? And he was like, oh, at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my red flag. They show them talking in the bathroom, and they partner up there, but that scene doesn't happen at the beginning of the game. It happens towards
Mm-hmm.
the end of the game. So then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, when did you guys talk to each other? And then the main guy, who has his hands in his pockets, he was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we knew from such and such, but he never spoke to them, because if he speaks to them, right, he goes and talks to his partner, and his partner kills himself. If he already is trusting these two guys to tell him the truth, why does he care that
Mm-hmm.
his partner dies? Remember, his partner
Right.
just gave up and just died or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about, like in terms of we can extrapolate or whatever, like what he could
Yeah.
have done, but they're actually telling you things, but what they're
Yes.
showing contradicts what they're telling you, and I felt the
Exactly.
way.
That's what I felt too. I did. I that's why I was upset with that game, because I thought it could have been better. Because I'm like, we know that Chishia is supposed to be the smartest person. We know that. We get that. We understand his character. But I am having a really hard time with why they are trophying these games to the soliloquy point. They're like they try to make it seem so much more hard or so much more intuitive, to the point where it's not realistic. You
Yeah.
need to it's like when somebody says, "Oh, the reason why I was able to solve this Rubik's cube with my eyes shut and never touching it and never seen it before was because I under." No, dude, you at least still need to see where it starts. You need to know where point A is. And it's like they're always starting on point, like it's A through Z, but they start on Y and then pretend to go back through the entire alphabet just to get to Z. And that's unrealistic. And that bothers me because it's like you have the ability to make this really cool and to make everybody be like, "Oh my god, that is such a good who done it." It's like when we all saw what's that movie? Ocean's 11 for the first time. And
Yeah.
we're like, "Damn, that was a good heist." Like, and they have the ability to do that with all of these games. These games are all supposed to be, so not all of them, but the games that he's in at least are very cerebral. So it's your opportunity to make them as cool as possible with your team of whoever's, your team of writers. But then it's like they just drop the ball by doing exactly what you said, giving us all of this information that we're supposed to just say, "Oh, yeah." And that's what when I was talking to you, Kenny, last week off air, remember
Yeah.
I had said those words. I was like, they do so much that it's like a letdown when the reveal is there because it's
Right.
like it's not even outside of even not being realistic or non-realistic. It's like you didn't as a viewer, I didn't even get to go along the ride with you. I didn't even get to be like, oh, yeah, oh, this is a clue. This is a clue. I'm going to figure this out. It just it's just like I knew who the guy was. But by the end, when they're giving their telling them everybody, "Oh, well, this is why we know," and it's like, I yeah, why you know, yeah, is easy because there's just no way it wouldn't have been this person. But it's the thing. It's like you figuring it out with the guessing of the your neck thing and the cookies is just like, what the fuck? Like,
Right.
what? What? Like, I want to have fun too. I'm watching it too.
Exactly. That's what killed was it Murder on the Oriental Express for me versus like something like, Knives Out or whatever. Whereas Knives Out shows you all everything that's happening, you're shown it. So when the
Yeah.
detective finally pulls all that information, they cut back to those scenes and you're like, "Oh, I was actually in on this. I just didn't know it." Whereas
Mhm.
the Murder on Oriental Express, everything happens off screen. Like they'll corner someone and they're like, "You did it," and you're like, "Why do you think this person did it?" And he's like, "You remember back in the day," and they do a flashback to a scene that never showed up previously. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, there's no way for me to go along with you on this journey. You're just showing me information. I'm just supposed to sit here and just be
I got you.
shown who did it, right? The same thing there when he's talking about the cookies. We didn't see any of that. They
No.
weren't. They were showing everybody else eat
All
for
it
the
was
most
is he's
part.
like, "These are better. These are better." It's like, okay, okay, I get that something's happening here or whatever, but that's not that didn't even it's just man, y'all, come on. Like
Yeah.
your whole premise of this
I get
show
it.
is to be more interesting than the basis that we were given because if we wanted to watch Alice in Wonderland, we'll go watch it. But like it's
Facts.
here's the opportunity for this to be really really interesting and cool and like some of the games were actually like kind of cool. Remember the first game that Arisu plays when he has to figure out the rooms?
Yeah.
That it's not even that it was cool, it was just a simple fact that we were brand new. So we're just seeing what's going on. We don't know anything. And it was high stakes. It was high stakes as he's literally trying to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, hey, hey, go left, go right, go left, go right. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not in that situation, but it ended up being like, oh, well, they got okay. And
Yeah.
they couldn't keep up the momentum. I
I
feel like they failed on that.
I feel like the second season's games were definitely weaker,
Yeah.
but I I hate to keep saying this. I knew that. I you know what I mean? Like I hate to keep saying that, but uh I knew they were definitely weaker.
Mhm.
The big thing for me was I wanted to see that fight scene. I really wanted to see that
Which
scene.
which scene?
King of Spades.
Oh,
Like
oh,
them
yeah, yeah,
fighting in the
yeah.
out. Like I really wanted to see that in motion. It's like you
Yeah,
pick up
like
a Dragon Ball manga and you read it and you see Goku go Super Saiyan 3 for the first time in the manga and then you see it in person. It's like, oh,
Well, no, if you,
Yeah.
you see it in person, you
Not
might want to talk
not
to
not in
somebody.
person. You see it on TV on the screen, and
Right.
um,
No, I get
it,
it. It's the same way when
uh,
I read because Naruto was taking way too long, so I read early and then went back and
Mhm.
saw the fights. So I totally get that. I think the problem
yeah,
is, at least for someone who hasn't read this manga,
yeah,
is that you are trying to you're trying to make us believe this is high stakes. You're trying to make us believe that this is
Mhm.
something,
yeah.
and it's so comic. Like the dude being naked the whole time. Like if that was in the manga, you could just change that. Like
I
I
know.
can't take you serious. You know what I'm saying?
Can't take
Like
it
Yeah.
serious. Yeah.
and it was hilarious, and I was actually laughing at that because they would be the way they would put their hands, it would automatically like
Uh-huh.
hide him, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was hilarious, but this is very serious. Like everyone's going
Yeah.
to potentially die, so the tone is an issue, and so like
Mhm.
I get it, I get it.
I'm
I
I'm
was
trying to.
entertained, but I think my argument is that the show could have been way better, even better than the manga,
It could have been better than the manga. Yep.
if they just would have been like, let's lean all the way into this. Or the
Now,
opposite, go totally bonkers, but just don't try to play the middle.
Right.
Not with this setup. It might
Mm-mm.
work with something else, but not with this setup.
I think this was definitely a fan service show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely a fan service show. So when I say what I said, I don't I don't knock you guys. No, wait. Seriously, I don't knock you guys for how you feel. I just wanted to
Mhm.
make that clear.
No.
No,
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I mean, me and you, we still got to see each other, but um. But no, I mean I don't knock it. We just now this has to happen. Like I don't knock you. This a consequence of
It
your
just is what
words.
it is.
It is what it is. Like this
Yeah.
ain't personal. It's just business. But
We should have done a group watch, like group watch
Oh,
video, and then just like yelling at the screen. It's
dog.
I
If they
that
had
would
a
have been
freaking
hilarious.
if Amazon Prime had some of this stuff, I could stream it. That would have been interesting. I do want to say this
Well,
though before we move on, because I know there's gonna be people out there who be like, you keep saying realistic, you keep saying realistic. Obviously, this is not realistic. There's this weird argument that people have where if you have like a zombie show or a show with superheroes, that realism shouldn't be a thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm
mm-mm.
saying is that, or like you're upset that something isn't real when something else isn't real. What I'm saying is that you want something to happen totally, like
Yeah.
like The Boys or whatever. That's a superhero show, but when someone dies, when the stakes are really really high and things are about to hit the fan, the tone changes to match that scene, and so
Hmm.
you believe what you're seeing, even though there's a Superman like character on screen. When he punches his fist through someone's chest, you believe it because of the
Hmm.
tone. But if it's always wacky, it's always crazy and over the top, it's not gonna have the same impact, and that's hilarious. And I did that on
Yeah.
purpose. It's not gonna have the same impact because it's everything is silly. So when we go to this, I know it's not real. I know it's not
it
real, but they want
I
they want to make the viewer, at least I think so. They want to make
Hmm.
the viewer feel something,
Yeah.
and it doesn't work sometimes because
It's
of the
hard to
anime
feel.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
So.
then they how can I put it? Certain characters just aren't going to die. So you don't worry about it. You
No, no,
don't
no.
you don't
I
worry
get
about it.
that. I
Like
get that for the main characters, but fam, the fact that the chick with the no name, she has a name, folks. I'm just saying. The fact that the chick with the
Right.
no name got shot a million times and fake died twice, only to live at the
Seriously.
end, just threw me. The fact that Anne didn't actually die,
I
just I
know.
was like, I don't even care anymore. I don't care. Like they showed at the end of the thing, and more spoilers, they showed that the Jack playing card or whatever the case may be, like there's gonna be a third season. And I was like, I'm gonna see it,
no,
obviously. But
no.
I was like, I don't care because apparently no one that we care about is going to die. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
That's
Like,
it.
how do you get
Yeah.
shot that many times and just don't die and then fake die?
And then
Like,
take that. Like I'm just sitting first. I really, I mean, obviously Netflix is going to push any IP that's making money. So if the fact that this is making money, they'll go for their third season, whatever, even if it has manga to back it up or not. I don't know. Does it, Brandon?
You said what now? I'm sorry.
Does it have canon?
Yeah,
Um,
like for a third season.
so they have spin-off series. So with the ending is a little bit different from the comic. When they're presented with the option, you actually see like a shrouded version of the Joker, um,
Mhm.
like a entity, which is why you see like the face cards really aren't people. Um,
Right, right.
uh, he's a entity, and he actually has like this little monologue with Alice or Arisu, and they have a spinoff. I cannot remember the name of the spinoff, but it follows other people in their games. Um, so it's no more. It's not so much about Arisu. It's about other people, but Arisu's in it.
Mm.
Um,
Okay, so there
so
could be
but they
potentially be a season three.
yeah, there could be potentially a season 3. It could be they could go either way. They could still be in the game. However, they decide they want to do it because of the Joker still being
Mhm.
around. Um, but I did like the premise of this being like a purgatory for them. Um,
Was
I did like
Yeah.
that.
that wasn't the case in the comic?
It was.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm just saying, period. Like
Mhm.
I like the premise of it being like a purgatory. Like they're basically fighting to come back because like everybody was
Yeah.
struck by the meteor, which is crazy. I
Yeah.
actually
It's
thought they were gonna change that because like that's the one thing I thought they were gonna be like, you know what? Ain't nobody surviving no daggone meteor. Like
yeah.
let's make it like I don't know, a bomb blew up or just something where there might be survivors. I can't see there being survivors for a meteor.
Yeah, big meteor.
Like
I mean,
you know what I mean? That's one of them things that took out the dinosaurs. Like that.
right,
Like
depending on the size, like, come on
yeah,
now.
come on now. Like even if it took out a city, like which it did, I don't think there should be survivors. Not where they were.
I
You know
mean,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
it was unrealistic in the fact that it's like, okay, here's this meteor, and then mind you, there's a fully functional hospital. Like,
uh
Right, right.
but
it's like, okay, because we all know, I mean, like, a meteor literally this happen a few years ago where a meteor like literally exploded in the sky and still leveled. It happened. It was
oh,
somewhere
it
what
was
in Russia or
Russia.
whatever.
Russia. Yeah, it was over
Yeah,
in Russia. It knocked out a couple city blocks.
you know, and so like yeah, that's it's a little unrealistic again. The whole but this idea that I was really banking. I really wanted this to be this thing where these people actually like died, and this was their opportunity to either come back to life, or this is or like they think they're going back to life but they just end up in another,
Game.
and it just keeps happening forever. And because I've watched enough science fiction to have seen these things before, and so I like always being able to see, hey, how is it going to play out? And like I like, I don't know if you guys ever saw that anime called Death Parade,
Okay.
but very similar idea. And I also think that there's some culture to this as well. But in Death Parade, people would die, and if there were people who died at the exact same moment, like in Japan, so you died at the exact same moment, literally instant, the exact same nanosecond, and typically it was only like two people, you would get sent to this place, and you didn't go to heaven or hell yet, you would get sent to this place, and you had to play games to figure out what, so that there was a judge there that would basically figure out if you were a good person or a bad person. And at the end of you playing these games, you would go into an elevator, and one elevator goes up and one elevator goes down. And one elevator, so because there's not like this idea that you don't go to heaven, you get reincarnated. You would go, basically get reincarnated, rehoused, and go back to the real world, and the other person would literally go to hell, would go to Jikoku.
Right.
So that was I really liked that show. And I appreciated how in the end the person the I guess you get the person who's kind of playing the judge is like, wait, why do I have the right, or not why do I have the right to make this decision, but how do I know that these people, we're judging them off of the activities that they're participating in right now, but how do we know that the activities aren't the ones making them this way? And I appreciate the question, because it
Yeah,
doesn't mean we can sit here and say, okay, if a person is bad, a person is bad. Like, it's their final moment, and this is literally their opportunity to go back to the world or go to hell. If a person is bad, they're going to be all kinds of shady just to get back to the world, and that'll show. But after this person who's like the judge has done this to countless people, he starts to see a pattern that when people are posed with basically with life and death, and the fact that you are competing now for life and death, not many people would sit there and say to the opposite person, why don't you go back to the world and I'll just go ahead and die? Like that, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. You're giving
right.
two people who died in an accident. Like, this isn't just, somebody who was old and died or whatever, or was dying of a disease. No, these people were dying of like something very, very freak. Like, one person slipped on a piece of soap in the bathtub. Another was a couple that was on their like, just got married and got into a car crash. And it's like, these people have lives to live, and they, of course, they want to go back if they're given the opportunity. It's like, play a game against this person. So the judge is sitting here like, wait a minute, I feel as though we are influencing them because we're putting them into these situations. And and so with Alice in Borderland, I'm like, they are basically being it's the exact same thing, just with a bigger cast, right?
Yeah.
And so it would be cool to explore that. But again, we would require a lot more character development. Like, I
I
think
got
some
you.
some
Yeah.
people got developed in a certain way, but other people just soliloquied their way through stuff. I mean, Anne, okay, yeah, we know that Anne was a what do you call it? A medical investigator or whatever, as a cop. And we
Yeah.
get it. Okay, so Anne's playing this super cool girl. And then she's like, move over, and then drives the car. And it's like, oh, can you be more animated than this? Like,
It was also
every
yeah,
just
it was
weird.
also
Anyway.
weird because with the purgatory thing and like they're fighting to stay alive. There's this weird thing with how someone is given the opportunity to be alive, where it's like if all the games were physical based, it's
Mhm.
like okay, I could kind of see that happening, but a lot of the games were kind of like just a sudden thing, and so does that mean that the person like they died instantly when the meteor hit, and it's just that split second was a long time in
Mhm.
whatever world, or
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because there's people like
Yeah.
for instance, the guy who got set on fire, who just wouldn't die, like he got shot with a shotgun and
What the
everything.
hell?
It was like, is he just so durable and that's why he survived the meteor, or is it that he fought his way through? Like I could kind of see the someone making an argument for him, but then there's some other characters who I'm like, what was the justification of them dying instantly, potentially with the meteor, but living on in this world where they specifically or potentially didn't have any type of way of getting back, period. Like
Mhm.
you were so injured that you were not coming back. So what was the point of,
Right.
like I think when they show, and granted, we could just, if you just went along with it, like, oh, that's nice. But like if you think about it for a few minutes, it's like, huh,
Yeah. And you get screwed. And that's why one of the biggest things, and this is why I actually did end up having a problem. I do have a problem with the ending the way that it is, and it being like, okay, this is a meteor, and then all these people are real. I have a problem with that because Alice is the one who goes to Wonderland. Okay. And you can argue that everybody in Wonderland exists, that she actually went there with a purpose, and blah, 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 all that stuff. But
right,
at the end of the day, from the real world, it was just Alice who went there. And and it everything happened to Alice. And so, because they're using Alice in Wonderland as their premise, I would honestly hope that really this stuff was just happening to Alice. And kind of like that episode of Black Mirror where that guy ends up he does that computer. It's the episode where he puts on he was doing the testing, video game testing. And
Right, and he made his
unfortunately, he
own
doesn't
world.
listen. Yeah, he doesn't listen. They said no cell phones allowed, and he brings his cell phone in, and then his cell phone rang at the exact same time that they inserted the electric current into his body, and so he died. But the thing is, he died like instantly. But because our brains have chemical signals, like when we dream, we might sit there and think our dreams are lasting 35 minutes to 2 hours, and they really are only lasting like less than 5 seconds because that's how quickly electrons pass through our brain. But this guy, he had that whole episode is a horror episode. He's in a horror house and he's literally being tested to the limits of how much like fear he can take. Like that episode's scary.
Right.
Yeah.
And then come to find out everything that happened in that episode is not real. It never happened, but it happened in his mind. And then he died. And the episode is what, an hour long? So he's going through all of that stuff for 45 minutes. And when we get out of his mind and we're sitting there with the rest of the people in that episode and they're like, what time did he die? And they're like, oh, well, he died at 4:02. He put the thing on at literally 4:02. His phone rang at 4:02. He died within seconds, like not even seconds. He died in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
And so, if that were to be the premise, like nobody else is in this world, and that actually would make more sense. Alice meeting all these people that he doesn't know, that he's never met before, but they were real people in the real world that maybe he interacted with and he just never knew.
Yeah.
And his friends dying in the Borderlands makes sense, and him, moving forward and going through all that stuff would make sense because it's all in his brain, it's all in his mind. And I was actually looking for that. I thought that that's what we were gonna get, and we didn't. We got something different. I was like, okay, I'll go along with it.
I got you. I got you. No, I get it. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways that they could have spun it,
Yeah.
um, to give like I'll say a different ending. Um, but
But we got what we got, and we
but we
have
got
to
what but
accept
we
it.
got what we and that's what I was gonna say. I was trying to figure out how to say it because I was about to be like, but you gotta hold this. You gotta hold it.
You
You
gotta
got
hold it, and
it's,
we
it's,
got we got 2 seasons of
look
Queena walking
look
around in jeans and a bikini top.
look.
And girl was never cold.
I'm just saying. You already gave up your 20 hours and there's no refund. So
There, nope.
you better learn to like it. You better make them 20 hours count. You
Look, I will literally watch this show just for picking it apart. I would, because it's like it's entertaining enough, is it not? I mean,
Yeah, it's entertaining
it is.
enough. It
It
definitely.
is.
I didn't feel like it was a waste. But
yeah,
talking with Tess though, I do. It's like, darn, we didn't disagree. Like I was thinking this was gonna be the one. Like, did we finally disagree? We gonna have it out? And they're like, nah, she's speaking facts. I don't.
we we
Uh,
agree because I think we have a similar idea towards like how we approach like art and stuff. We
yeah.
disagree on certain things. We disagree on we disagree on Black
Oh,
AF. I love that show. You
yes.
hate that show.
Yes. That's what we're talking about. You know he has and we're gonna wrap it up. You know he's doing a
Movie.
movie with
Yes.
freaking Eddie Murphy, and I just my
Yes.
eyes have not stopped rolling, and I just feel like it's gonna be some mess. And
Look, Twitter
I just
hates it already. I personally, I think I'm gonna laugh. I'm
oh
gonna
my
laugh.
gosh. I just
But Twitter
can't with that
hates it.
guy. I look,
the
I
I can't.
one more side note. You guys like fans of Final Destination?
I
I
do
mean, I
like
wouldn't
that.
say fans. I think I only saw the first one. I liked the first one.
I
Um,
like the series, even though
you
it
should.
got worse.
Yeah, oh yeah, progressively got worse. That's another one that you only watch to see the bad parts, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Um, but you guys should check out another if you haven't.
I've seen
It's
it.
a anime.
I've seen it.
Um,
Awesome.
yes, it's really dark, but I really enjoyed it. I would like love to hear Tess talk about that. Um,
Okay.
um, Don't worry, it's better than Alice.
Oh yeah, by
But
far. But it's also anime, so it's like certain
yeah.
things is kind of you just kind of let slide. I do have some questions about the ending. I need to rewatch it. But beyond that, I think it's really really good, and it's horror based, so I'm down. But it's also a mystery on top of it. So
Um
I would recommend that as well.
the ending, I was happy with the ending. I was overall happy with the whole show. I think how it starts off is definitely good enough to make you say, like, if you're into it, you're gonna be like, oh, that's how we doing it. All right. like like if somebody does like a little cameo, not a cameo, a little video for it, they should
Mm.
definitely play Rihanna Under My Umbrella. Like they should that should be the song. Um
Yeah, another or other is is definitely a
it's
good
another.
anime. It's
It's
another
another.
okay. I think it's
Yeah.
on Crunchyroll actually.
Yeah, it's on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
It's a solid show.
Yeah, now that is something I was hoping they would do a second season because of like how it goes. You know what I mean? Like that anime can have an infinite amount of seasons and it makes sense.
I think that's why they didn't. I think it's one of
Mm.
those things where like it we know that this is an ongoing, potentially ongoing thing, and that yeah, let me stop because
Let it
I'm
live
a
in your
super
mind.
I'm a super analyze this. Yeah, kind of like Inception. Like this is something
Yeah.
that could
Mm.
continue. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to everybody that listened.
Yep.
We're actually well over time,
Right,
but
Oh,
right.
but it was a good.
It should have been a separate show.
It should have been. But I was like, it's good though. So I was like, I'm gonna let it go. You know what I'm saying? But I might have to chop it up. We'll see. But thank you for listening. If you listen to the whole show, or if you just listen to the Alice in Borderlands segment, we appreciate you. If you're listening on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're up on all the new content. If you're listening on, you know, any other DSPs like Amazon, Spotify, those different places, feel free to add us to your RSS feed, subscribe. Again, so you're up on all the new content. We have a lot of stuff coming, a lot more guests, and a lot of cool shows to talk about. And not just shows, but games and manga and stuff like that. And you're not going to know it if you're not following. So please do so. Also, tell your friends and your enemies, they need to know.
Definitely your enemies.
But yeah,
Definitely.
definitely
I
keep it
agree.
locked here. We have a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and um, I'm just looking forward to hanging out this year. This year is going to be better than last year. I'm saying that now, so that way people can hold me to it. This year is going to be better than last year. So definitely follow, definitely hit the notification bell, and definitely share. We would definitely appreciate it. Definitely.
all right.
Word. You got
You're
any? Yeah, you're. Ah.
hit that follow button, pull up gang. Yeah.
Gang,
Get in,
gang.
get in line.
That's it, y'all. Remember, be kind. That is the most important thing. If I can stress that, that's the only thing that hits the internet. Be kind, everybody. Wear your masks. COVID is still a thing, and wash your hands and your faces and your butts. And
And your legs.
you know that was pointed, pointed. Um, but yeah, please do all of those things. And hashtag don't be a dick. And hashtag we will see you next episode. Bye bye.